The October 22nd, 2024 regular meeting of the Everett Public Schools Board of Directors is hereby called to order. We will begin with section 2.0, which is the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge the original inhabitants of this area, the Shahoobs people and their successors, the Tulalip tribes. Since time immemorial, they have hunted, fished, gathered on, and taken care of these lands and waters. We respect their sovereignty, their right of self-determination, and honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and water. In Everett Public Schools, we strive to create equitable outcomes and build a culture of inclusive belonging for all students, teachers, staff, and the community. We'll now move on to section 3.0, the flag salute. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. That takes us to section 4.0, the roll call. Will the secretary please call the roll?
President Mitchell.
Present.
Vice President Herman.
Present.
Director Adkins.
Present.
Director Mason.
Present.
Director Obelinsky.
Present.
Student Representative Kink. Student Representative Covarrubias.
Present.
Thank you. It takes us to section 5.0, adoption of the agenda. Dr. Saltzman, were there any changes to the agenda after it was published?
Yes, Madam Chair. There has been one change to the agenda. Item 7.01, the superintendent's report, the presentation was added.
Thank you. Is there any objection to the meeting agenda being adopted by general consent? Seeing none, the agenda is adopted by general consent. That brings us to section 6.0, recognitions, and sadly there are none for this meeting. Next is section 7.0, the superintendent's report. Dr. Saltzman.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Board of Directors, and to the public this evening. And I'd like to, tonight with the report, to start off with an overview of what we're doing with academics in our district, and I want to start off with instructional reviews. Right now, what you would call the instructional review season. They go through December, and they are a key part of making sure that our schools stay on track with their improvement goals. Also, as we continue to have high academic achievement, I want the public to know as we compare ourselves not only to other districts and to the state, this is why we're doing so well. It is a process. School leaders present their progress and plans for helping students succeed, focusing on both the achievements and areas of improvement. It's like going to the doctor, but we are the prescriptors, and we're giving good advice and care to how we're going to improve the needs of our students. Our leaders do an amazing job. Our teachers do an amazing job. Our paras do an amazing job. Everybody is part of this process. When you have clean schools and you have kids learning, you have results. So it's not just teachers. It's not just administrators. It's paras, cafeteria workers, everybody that's part of this work. The process helps us understand what is working and what we can do better across the district to increase achievement. We have had instructional reviews so far at Emerson, Eisenhower, North Middle School, Gateway Middle School, Evergreen, Lowell, Penny Creek, Silver Lake, and just today, Mill Creek Elementary School. I want to thank our teams that have done that across the district. It's been quite beneficial. Things that we're finding out right now is that we had a lens last year on increasing attendance in our schools, and you see that improvement coming up. We have a lens on our ML learners, and you see that improvement coming up. Reading, math, and science, improvement. Of course, we have a long way to go, but doesn't every district in America have a long way to go? But what do you prescribe when you enter these walks? We do a 2-hour walk, and I want to thank the directors that have come to the IRs to see the process, is what do you identify that our schools can work on from now until January? And then in January, we come back, not with an IR per se, but we come back with a little bit more of a plan to say, let's fine tune as we get into the next season, which is our commencement. So it's a K-12 system, but I want to share with our public tonight why we call it an instructional review. Again, it is a process to move student achievement and to continue raising the bar, finding out what's needed in the science, math, reading and social emotional learning. So thank you to our entire district community, and thank you to our board that has partnered with us with instructional reviews. They've been very beneficial, and they're making a difference for our kids. And I want to give that overview to our community this evening. My next point tonight is early this month, staff district-wide participated in Learning Improvement Days. Okay, in October was focused on social emotional learning, or you would call SEL, and thank you to Dave Peters for leading that with many others. SEL is an essential part of our approach to student success, helping students manage their emotions. Think about it, helping our own students manage their emotions, setting goals, showing empathy, and building strong relationships among their student body. The training focused on the ruler framework, recognizing, understanding, labeling, expressing, and regulating emotions. This framework helps deepen emotional understanding, strengthen connections, and ensure we are creating caring, inclusive environments for students and staff. I want to extend a big thank you to our families and also to our entire district and to our community for letting us have that and letting us really share with the work that we're doing in the system. Then it takes me to the final statement tonight is on Friday night, it's get ready for the Battle of Broadway. We hope the entire community can come join us for Everett vs. Cascade Showdown, game starting at 7 p.m. But it's not just a football game, okay? This is a storied rivalry that kicked off, do you realize, 1920? When Everett High faced off first against the Bremerton Navy Yard team. What better place to be on a Friday night to our kids and community than to be at a stadium, right? What better place to be if you can at a stadium? But I want to share this with our community tonight and to our board and to everybody that is listening and watching. Talked about social emotional learning, talked about instructional reviews just a minute ago. It parlays to our sports. I want to commend the entire student body that comes out on Friday night for the sportsmanship and camaraderie that I have seen every Friday night since this school year started. We had a youngster that was honored for cancer at one of our football games, and the other high school came out in orange as well to honor that student. That's what makes this community so great. We rallied together, and it doesn't go unnoticed in my eyes, and I just wanted to call that out tonight because all this work comes together, even on the sports field. So thank you.
All right, thank you so much. That moves us on to section 8.0, board and student comments. Student Representative Covarrubias, would you like to begin?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. First, I would start by commenting that this year has been going by very, very quickly, especially since students are now taking the PSATs and the ASVAB tomorrow. SBA students are already planning school events like dances. Our teachers and staff are very content with the parent square as they have been able to follow along with any students they have. Also, we have finally reached 165 students at Sequoia this year, which is very exciting, and hopefully we'll get a dance this year. And lastly, I would like to comment that I'm very excited for Halloween and hope that you all have a great Halloween.
Thank you. Student Representative King.
Hi guys, so I've been really busy with ASB and working on our homecoming dance. It's obviously a tradition every year at Jackson High School, and along with the other high schools in the district, it takes a lot of effort to plan. This year we had our homecoming parade to highlight all of our clubs, an assembly, a spirit week, and a dance. And after hearing feedback from the teachers and our ASB advisor, everyone's saying it was one of the best dances we've had in a long time, even before COVID. My generation isn't really one to like go out and like necessarily dance together, but we had a really great DJ and people actually danced at our homecoming, which usually they just kind of go and hang out, but it was cool to see everyone on the floor busting it down. And speaking of ASB, we've also been having meetings with Dr. Saltzman. We recently met with the Everett High School ASB team, and last week he met with the Jackson student leaders at Sawmill, and we ate a lot, and it was great to talk about some of our plans and keep them in the loop. And like Vanessa said, Halloween is around the corner, and I'm super excited for one of Jackson's probably most elementary school involving events, our Oktoberfest, where we get all of our clubs together and they make like little carnival games, and all the elementary schoolers come in, and it was one of my favorite childhood memories, and it's kind of cool to be giving back. So I'm glad that that event's still going well. And overall, the year's off to a great start. I know we kind of say this a lot, but it really feels like we're back, at least kind of with the same spirit we had before the pandemic, and if not, even better than that. So I'm just super happy with the way everything's been going this far in the year.
Thank you so much. Director Ovalinsky, do you have anything?
Boy, that's a tough act to follow. Not much for me. I did get a chance to celebrate with the Students of the Month named by the Everett Rotary. It always makes me proud to hear about and see our kids' academic strength and involvement in the community. And then I would also like to thank and congratulate everybody involved in the paraeducator contract that will probably be approved here in a little bit.
Thank you. Director Mason?
Yeah, I attended IR, and I think Dr. Salzman covered that topic pretty well, and also was able to get to Everett High School and beyond, which we've talked extensively about also. So nothing else from me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nothing from me.
Director Herman?
I'll chime in and agree with Director Revelinsky on it's hard to top. I enjoy the student comments, I think, hearing your perspective on that. So thanks so much. A couple of things. I was at Jackson High School last week for the presentation on the Regional Apprenticeship Pathway Program. And actually, Director Atkins had spoken about this previously, but it was fantastic. This program is similar to Snow Isle Tech. It's for the construction trades. And so to hear more about that, and hats off to our CTE team for setting up a lot of opportunities for students to get that hands-on experience. So that was fantastic to hear about. Applications are going to open for that November 7th, so and interviews in January. And that happened to be over the October 17th at 10:17. So I was in the library for the Great Shakeout. And sure enough, we got under the tables and practiced that. So a great visit to Jackson High School for that. The instructional reviews this morning with Mill Creek Elementary, last week with Heatherwood. And thanks for your explanation on that. Absolutely on sort of connecting the dots between our strategic plan and instructional practices. And I think for directors, it is really helpful to be able to speak with authenticity on that the school goals are really data-driven, very thoughtfully created, and to see the examples in the classroom of how instruction is done, see the teachers in action. You had said the phrase before about this is how the sausage gets made kind of thing. This is sort of where everything really happens. Is just fantastic to see, because we can definitely say there's just some great teaching going on out there. And so fantastic job for Heatherwood and Mill Creek. Next week, I get to do Cedarwood and then Jackson. And so I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I just have a couple of things. I attended the Cocoon House Silk Auction, and I'm just forever thankful for the generosity of this community that support our students and young people in this greater Snohomish County community. Also, speaking of football, I did enjoy the last part of the Everett High School game against Mount Lake Terrace, and then Jackson's game, the beginning of it. So congratulations on your homecoming. It was very cold, so I did talk to my husband about the fact that we're very much looking forward to basketball. And starting in December, I already have it on my calendar. So thank you so much. Now this moves us on to 9.0, public comment. Dr. Saltzman, are there any requests for public comment this evening?
We have no public comment at this time.
It's still afternoon. Thank you so much. Okay, now we move on to section 10.0, legislative updates. Director Herman.
Terrific, thank you. Just a few. As we've mentioned in the past, the fall is the time when education associations and organizations are coming up with their legislative priority list. Last week, the State Board of Education adopted theirs, and not surprising, special education was on top. Washington State PTA is going to be meeting this weekend to adopt their top 5. So more will be coming out, and I think we will be seeing a lot of alignment in those priorities. WASDA will be announcing theirs tomorrow, so we'll see that for WASDA tomorrow. And for our own, for Everett, That is going to be on the agenda for our next regular meeting, which is November 12th. So we will be discussing more at that time. That's it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. That moves us on to the consent agenda. Dr. Saltzman, have you received any questions about the about a consent agenda item?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the case of this consent agenda, the superintendent's office received no questions on the consent agenda.
Thank you. First, does any director wish to remove an item from the consent agenda and place it in the new business section of the agenda? Seeing none. Is there any objection to the adoption of the consent agenda by general consent? Thank you again. Seeing none, the consent agenda is approved by general consent. That moves us on to section 12.0, which is strategic progress monitoring, technology plan update. Mr. Blakely.
Good evening. Good evening, President Mitchell, fellow Board of Directors, and Dr. Saltzman in the community. It's my pleasure tonight to share with you an update for the Integrated Technology Plan. The theme this year has been to boldly go, and there is a through line in this theme with the purpose and the goal of the Integrated Technology Plan. This plan has been established to enable our district to advance into the future with the tools and the knowledge and how to support our students, to not only acquire the tools, but the knowledge of how to use those. So my goal for you tonight is for you to learn a little bit more about the Integrated Technology Plan and what makes it special, with its intentionality around the student priority outcomes, with its forward-thinking approach and preparedness for our district priorities, how we utilize our knowledge and make a shift when necessary. We are flexible. I'll share some examples of how the plan is flexible. And we always are striving to fulfill our commitments to, as it comes to technology, to the district and to our community. The purpose of the plan emphasizes it's not just about acquiring technology, and I think that's what makes this technology plan unique and special. It's about intentional changes that are specific and aligned to support the plan. It's coordinated, it's aligned, and it's always focused on student support. I believe in this work, my team believes in this work. We're really excited about the work that we do about preparing our students and our staff for the 21st century and the shift when we need to make it to best support them. The first version of the Integrated Technology Plan was adopted in 2016, and some of you were with us when we had that adoption, as we moved to a one-to-one platform, and that technology plan helped us support that shift. It was updated in 2022 as part of that levy renewal, and it is the framework for how we implement the 2022 capital levy. And this is I always take the opportunity to thank our community. We're so grateful for passing this and renewing this levy to give us these resources to provide these tools for our community. We receive these levy funds over the course of 6 years, and it really drives the technology plan. And the plan is our framework of how we use those resources. We pride ourselves on being good fiscal stewards and following through on the promises we made. The Integrated Tech Plan is organized around these 6 goals. And what you will learn about in the update tonight is just highlighting some of the components that I believe showcase the power behind the Integrated Technology Plan. You'll see the connection as I share the story of the Integrated Technology Plan related to these 6 goal areas. The technology plan at its core is founded in the strategic plan. And in each of the goal areas are action items, and I attach to board docs as a reference for you. Every time you see an action item, you see a direct connection to a strategic priority outcome and a strategic initiative. It's connected to and drives the work of the Integrated Technology Plan. All of the work that we do is in support of the strategic plan. And we always anchor it back to our student achievement indicators. So how does the action items that are in the Integrated Technology Plan and the department impact student learning? Maslow's hierarchy of needs reflects the order of humans' needs used to motivate them to make certain decisions or to act in certain ways. In education, we often think of Maslow's hierarchy in its relationship to learning. In general, if students' basic needs for shelter, for food, for safety aren't being met and they don't feel safe, they have difficulty learning, having a tougher time focusing on learning. Well, technology has a similar hierarchy. At the basic level, technology needs to work and create a safe environment to protect our systems and our data at its core foundation. Our network and support customer service team provides us with that safe, secure access to the internet, make sure it's maintained, that it's reliable, that data flows smoothly to our hundreds of digital tools. Without this work, we couldn't easily focus on teaching and learning to move up that hierarchy of needs. Once the basic needs are met, there's a capacity for staff to train and to learn, to gain proficiency in integrating. And that is the work of our Learning Management Services team, our LMS team, to provide that training support in the short term and in the long term, to be proficient with new skills and to adjust to changes of a tool. And once someone feels proficient, they can be creative and innovative as they work their way up that technology hierarchy of needs. So that really is a framework for how you can sort of see the plan as it moves people from a functional level up to a creativity level. So really, I want to just start at that foundational level, the functional and reliability component. And here are some examples of what the teams in the LITS department do to create a solid foundation. And it begins with a safe network, the infrastructure that needs to be present in order to support the plan. Here are just some highlights I've listed that have been taking place. You heard in the superintendent's comments at our last board meeting, a comment that really struck me because I think it comes at the core of the plan. He said, instruction and learning is our commitment, but student safety is our priority. And I would say in the integrated tech plan, that is also at its foundation a priority to make sure that all of the things that we have for the tools that they have access to and the network that we have is created in a safe environment. Like, for example, replacing the security cameras. We made sure that they were more robust. They were replaced all at once, giving our team more tools to be able to monitor and create that safe physical environment. But also, we have to make sure we have a network digital safety as well. And you see listed there some of our other pieces. I will call out, and Ian Moore, that he's pictured here with me. He is our CISA representative. We continue to partner with the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. He is our local representative. They constantly scan our network and provide us alerts. That continues to take place at that functional reliability level. But also at that foundation level is that life cycle management piece that's built into the plan. We need to make sure that the tools that we have are maintained and updated. And so, for example, this year that we replaced on a schedule the Chromebooks at North and Gateway, that we provide them the tools to grow into over the next several years as tools become more powerful and more robust. We also need to think about the teacher kit. So you've heard the strategic initiative of a standard classroom kit that's now operational. And although operational, we know we have to continue to update that kit. So for example, you see pictured here the panel that every teacher has in the classroom. We can foresee a time where that will be limited as more and more robust tools and video become apparent. We want to include in the plan an opportunity to expand the functionality by adding a little mini computer to the back of that. So that's built into the plan to constantly assess that teacher kit. So one of the, as we move up that functional and reliability and that framework is usability, and with training, more proficiency. And so a significant amount of work this year in the plan will be the transition to a new student information system. This visual kind of illustrates the scope of this work. There are various products that will no longer be used, such as Gradebook, Home Access Center, Insight, Performance Matters. those will now be embedded into the one platform synergy tool. But there are also going to be some new tools that our staff will have access to that they didn't have before, such as the master schedule builder, which our administrators are very excited to learn about, and the admin view, which is a tool that our administrators will have that they didn't have access to before. So this is a timeline of that, where we're at currently in this project. It's kind of looking out over to the cut over when we are ready to, in August of 2025, as we get ready to kick off the next school year, we will be, between now and that point, doing a lot of stakeholder training with our project leads, continuing the migration of data. Another way to look at it in sort of these big buckets here of what we're working on now is data conversion. We go through many rounds of data conversion, so every round we kind of verify that it looks right going from eSchool to Synergy and the accuracy. So that's taking place. We're training the key leads in each of those modules you saw pictured, identifying the groups of people that are going to be our core group of trainers, such as with the teachers, the office managers, the counselors, the administrators, those key groups that spend a lot of time on our student information system, making sure that we're calendaring with them through the spring to be ready for that fall cutover. I'm also partnering with our communications team. They've helped us with communication is going to be the key to the success of this project to make sure everybody knows where we're at. That would include Friday reports with the board, keeping you updated, also our newsletters. We're creating a web page that will constantly put updates in there for our staff and our community to see where we're at, and utilizing our social media. That partnership with communications is very strong. But with training, as we become more proficient, is making sure that it's usable, is building in that training along with the student information system just on regular training on how to use those tools that are either new or new to a teacher. So that continues to take place. You see listed there some of the offerings that we had over the summer and leading into the start of this school year. And this is the team you see pictured that goes out to the sites, works with our students, models lessons for teachers, partners with teachers, works alongside them as they try on new tools. So that ongoing regular professional development of all the other things outside of the student information systems migration continues to take place. And as we want it to be more usable and proficient for our staff. Well, one thing the integrated technology plan did not specify was artificial intelligence. But I mean, how can you predict 6 years worth of technology? But what the plan did do was created flexibility and seizing on innovation. And that was included in the language. And so we want to continue to support that innovation and flexibility in the plan. And so making sure that this is usable for staff, that they become proficient with artificial intelligence, and they can seize on its opportunities for creativity. So some of the things we've been working on is updating our policy and procedure. We included language to include artificial intelligence language in those updates. We partner with our Technology Advisory Council to develop an AI handbook for staff, partnering with our librarians to include digital citizenship components aligned to the policies and procedures around AI. We also offered courses for our staff to either take on demand or in person. And we housed all of that in a Canvas portal. You see just a snapshot of what it looks like, sort of a clearinghouse of some of these resources for staff to take advantage of. One of the other changes we needed to make this year in preparation for AI is reviewing our digital tools that have now included lots of AI within the tools that we've already approved, and also new tools around making sure that student data privacy and security is maintained. So that continues to take place. But responding to technology's advancement, teacher requests, and student needs has also pushed us to work to form a separate committee from the Technology Advisory Council, and that's the AI Committee. And what an amazing group of staff we have assembled. They're focused on this essential question of how do we effectively launch and implement using district tools AI this year, focused on our 4 key pillars. The purpose of the committee has been to provide us some guidance, to advise our policy and procedure, to monitor AI's impact on our educational environment. And it's a great, we have a nice over 40 representation, lots of teachers, K-12. And it's nice to have that practitioner voice on the committee to really give us that input needed for how this can impact and be a strength tool for our district. This is a snapshot of some of the comments from these practitioners from our first meeting. So we've had one meeting. We're in a couple more weeks, we're having our next meeting. There's a couple of themes that I'll just call out. This is just a snapshot of some of the comments, but really the ones I picked are kind of fall within the same theme. That the teachers were saying it's challenging to give you input if we can't use it. And we want to use it not just for ourselves, but with our students. And we've talked about this here in our board meetings as well. And so they wanted access and their students to have access so they could then give us some input. They could better identify what professional development teachers might need, what their experience their students had. And another theme was around making sure that whatever we do, we have to make sure privacy of student data and information is secure. They really, that was, you see that in the comment in the bottom right there, that really is encapsulated what many said around whatever we do, that's got to be a consideration of the district. So to that end, the committee spent some time in our first meeting learning about 3 district AI tools, Magic School, School AI, and Colleague AI. And we learned about these tools and are going to be getting a pilot with our AI committee and their students that they have in their classroom to guide our work over the next several weeks, to give us that input. We'll train our committee on these tools. Some of them have already been using the free version, but we would be using the paid version. And it's in line really, if you remember to our summer workshop, the board workshop where we had our students there, 2 of whom are sitting with us. And our students, that is really what they talked about. They gave us feedback about AI should be a tool, not a solution, that we should, the idea of partnering with a company to create an EPS AI tool, one for our district, and not necessarily just open up AI for everyone, but to do it thoughtfully. And so I'm excited as I meet with the student committee again in the next couple of weeks in November to kind of share this update and this feedback as it comes in. And hopefully some of them have teachers that they're experiencing on their end as well to give us the student voice as well. So proficiency and usability also extends outside of the school walls. And I know you've heard about Parent Square and Harmony shared the data with you at the launch, the school launch. The team, the LITS team is really that making sure people know how to use it, the training component. And that's a key part of our outreach with our families is to have this single communication tool and people know how to use it as it replaces Blackboard Connect and it replaces Remind. And so we created specialized training for our administrators and our teachers, our coaches and our counselors, our athletic coaches, office personnel. We went to back to school nights and worked with them as well. Some of our schools are utilizing Parent Square to set up their fall conferences as a tool for parents to be able to sign up. We're helping them with that. So we want to make sure things are usable for our families, and that is a key component. Also part of that outreach for usability, and this is at long last, the dream is now a reality, is that our EPS students will now have the ability to using they could access through Everett Public Libraries and Snow Isle using their student ID numbers. They can access those resources. This gives them access to their ebooks, their audiobooks, their physical books, their databases, their online tutoring through BrainFuse. School librarians are going to start sharing this information with schools and students and showing them this starting next month. So we're really excited about this. We've been working on this for a couple of years and really excited about the next steps. So speaking of next steps, you see listed here several, just kind of give you a snapshot of the work to come. I've already highlighted some of that in my work with AI and comments about our SIS, but we'll continue to do digital tool training. focusing on our life cycle management. One thing of note, that transition to Windows 11, that will be something our staff will be working on. But our focus will always be on the safety and security of our students and our network at that foundation. So you see several things listed there that we'll continue to do, along with training our staff on safe practices. As we look ahead on next steps, specific to our student information system, we'll continue to build out those 8 project teams and focusing on all the preparations leading to that train the trainers, which will happen in April, as they learn more about the system, to be able to then in August at those learning improvement days to kick off the school year, they'll be able to train their own staffs. But we'll also be making sure our office managers, our counselors, our central office, that's work that will be taking place in the near future as well, as we provide professional learning for our stakeholders. So lots of exciting work, and we're looking forward to providing you another update in the future about our progress. Would happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much. And I just want to say first off, putting on the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, because I can say when my technology doesn't work, I fall down.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to begin with our students because there was a good part about AI. Do you guys have any questions?
Yeah, I'm glad, obviously, you've done it before, that you're continuing to involve students. And just overall, I'm happy that we're starting to include AI with our language and move forward to accepting it as a whole in the district.
I don't really have a question, but I do have a comment. It's great to see that our actual feedback was actually used here, since we talked a lot about teachers being trained for AI and technology. I also am really happy about the Snow Isle libraries and Everett Public libraries being used.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're excited about that. Thank you.
yeah, thank you. Because this really does impact you both. So any other questions or comments from board members? Director Mason?
Thanks for a great update. I'm super excited about that Snow Isle. That's really exciting news. And I had said it before at another meeting, but I've just heard so much positive feedback about Parent Square, and looking forward to synergy because it's just going to uncomplicate people's lives so much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're excited about the one platform.
Yeah.
Director Herman?
My big concern, and you mentioned it several times, is the cybersecurity. And I know this is October, and with what happened with Highline Public Schools this year, from what I read online, this is just education institutions are more and more susceptible and targets. And so I appreciate the fact that you continue to highlight that as sort of we take that very seriously. The repercussions of something happening would be huge. I'm also very excited about where we're going with AI, so thank you for your work in that. And then also a reminder on, similar to when we talked about curriculum, technology is something that we do get an annual amount from the state through MSOC, and it's a little bit more than curriculum, but once again, we go to voters. And so a thank you to our voters for approving that capital levy, because what we are allocated on an annual basis is really at a maintenance level compared to what I think we're all expecting now within our education system. So, and I was able to see at the IR this morning at Mill Creek, I was talking with one of the staff members, even these smart boards, those are just well in use, and that's sort of we use that all the time. Can't imagine life without it, was, I'm pretty sure, her quote. So it's fantastic to see everything getting used, and excited to see where we're going to go with that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Yeah, I think I just concur with everything. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
We'll move on we have 3 information discussion sections tonight. The first is School-Based Health Center Spotlight. I think Mr. Peters?
Well, good evening, President Mitchell, directors, Dr. Saltzman, and the community. I am genuinely excited this evening as I've been looking forward to sharing with you a spotlight presentation about a very special opportunity that we are engaging with in Everett Public Schools to bring school-based health centers to Cascade and Everett High Schools. Our district is committed to expanding student health and wellness as a key component of improving student outcomes. And this project aligns with our broader strategic goals, which emphasize removing barriers to learning and creating environments where students can thrive. And so tonight we'll spotlight the important role that school-based health centers can play in this effort, providing essential health services directly on campus. So school-based health centers are essential health facilities that are located within schools, and they offer medical, dental, and mental health services. These centers help eliminate barriers to healthcare by providing services directly where students learn. In Washington State, over 65 SBHCs exist, but until now, Snohomish County only has 2. And I know that a number of you have visited. It's our partners in the Edmonds School District at Meadowdale High School, and a number of you were at the ribbon cutting ceremony at Mount Lake Terrace High School in March, I believe it was. And so we all learned together that SBHCs ensure that students have access to vital health care, supporting their ability to stay healthy and present on campus and focused in school. So Cascade and Everett High Schools were selected based on community needs, with a proportion of students that often face significant barriers such as financial difficulties, homelessness at times, and language barriers as well. Community health centers of Snohomish County approached the district in late 2023, recognizing that school-based health centers could help reduce these barriers by offering no-cost services on campus. So Community Health Centers, or CHC, is a federally qualified health center with over 40 years of experience in providing healthcare services to diverse communities. CHC will manage the staffing and the operations of these school-based health centers. Their services include medical care, dental care, and mental health services that are all provided at no cost to students and families, ensuring no financial burden. So some of the specific services that will be offered include preventative care, immunizations, treatment of minor illnesses, and physicals for sports. Students will also have access to dental services, such as routine checkups and oral hygiene education, as well as mental health services provided in partnership with local agencies. Referrals to specialists will also be provided when needed, ensuring comprehensive care for our students. Now, student privacy is a priority at SBHCs. Students will receive no more than they would receive at a medical clinic, and all services are provided according to HIPAA and Washington State minor consent laws. With a goal of family inclusion, CHC encourages parent involvement whenever possible and promotes open communication between students and their families about health concerns. The establishment of SBHCs at Cascade and Everett High Schools is funded by state legislative capital funding, with each center receiving $244,000 for renovations. CHC will manage the staffing and the equipment, while the district will provide space and shared utilities. There are no direct costs to the district or out-of-pocket expenses for students, and insurance will be billed when applicable, but families will not receive balance bills. School nurses will continue to manage the day-to-day health concerns for our students, but they can refer students to the SBHC for more specialized care, such as physicals or chronic disease management. Privacy regulations will ensure that sensitive health information is protected always, and this collaboration between school nurses and SBHC staff will enhance the health services provided to students without overlapping their roles. The SBHCs at Cascade and Everett are planned to open in mid to late 2025, with the permit drawings to be submitted to the City of Everett very shortly. A contractor RFP is slated to be distributed to bidders in late October or early November, with the work anticipated to begin in January at both schools. And we aim for a soft launch in the spring of 2025, which will allow us to refine our processes and communications for a full launch in the fall. So this SBHC project represents a critical step toward a healthier, more supported student body and a commitment to removing healthcare as a barrier to learning. So as I welcome your questions and feedback, I want to say thank you very much for the opportunity and for all your support so far along this journey here together.
Well, thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Students, any questions? I just want to say I'm going to be very blunt, the lies that are happening out there about what's happening in schools when it comes to students, what they're saying we're doing to students in schools. I'm so thankful for your very clear presentation that these are high school students, and there are several laws when it comes to mental health and seeking reproductive rights that are outside of our control, that really is state law when it comes to student privacy. So thank you for talking about that student privacy, and that we provide health care, will provide health care to our students. And thank you for this, because we need to prevent from the lies that are happening. So thank you so much. This is great. So yes.
Yeah, I just want to add in, I think the soft start in the spring makes a lot of sense to see how that goes. And I will be very curious if we are able to accommodate, if staff are going to be able to use it. I know a lot of these things still need to be worked out. When I've mentioned this to some parents, one of the Jackson parents was a little jealous, wondering, when can we get one?
Sure.
Because I think there's just a lot of support out there, and the logic of students having really easy access to some of these, whether it's dental or especially the mental health is a focus for us too. Right. And to have that increased access is going to really be beneficial. So thank you for making this happen. It's a big project, but very excited about it.
Very excited.
Yes.
Yeah, this is just incredibly exciting. You know, as someone who went to high school homeless, that something like this would have been just so impactful for me in being able to access healthcare, and this is just really exciting. And I'm really looking forward to the positive impact this will have on especially some of our most disadvantaged youth who otherwise aren't going to be able to access healthcare.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
So now we move on to section 13.02, preliminary fourth quarter financial updates. Ms. Tress.
Thank you, President Mitchell, Dr. Saltzman, Board of Directors, student representatives. Tonight, the board and the community will hear about the preliminary fourth quarter financial update. I want to highlight that this information will not be final until November 15th, and the district will provide an update on the December 10th regular board meeting as well regarding this information. Tonight, I will review the preliminary results for the fourth quarter financial information for the 23-24 fiscal year regarding the district's general fund, the district's main operating fund, its summary of fund balance, revenues, and expenditures. In addition, the district will go over the district's 4 other comprehensive funds, including the capital projects fund, the debt service fund, the Associated Student Body Fund, and the Transportation Vehicle Fund. The district's preliminary fund balance is anticipated to be approximately 10% of total expenditures. It's, which meets the district's board policy of 5% overall, and the unassigned fund balance approximately 7.3% of total expenditures, which meets the board policy of approximately 2.5% overall. We're seeing preliminary revenues and transfers exceed expenditures by $5.4 million. I want to highlight that we did a significant reduction process in the 22-23 fiscal year, reducing approximately $22 million overall. And if we had not made those reductions, our fund balance would be just slightly over 4% in total. As we look at revenues compared to the district's overall budget, revenues are exceeding the original overall adopted budget, driven by multiple reasons, some of which include increased enrollment in our basic education programs, our special education programs, and our multilingual programs as well. We're also seeing an increase in investment income year over year, as well as an increase in our food and nutrition program, primarily driven by an increase in participation, really related to the fact that we are providing free meals for over two-thirds of our district as a whole. In addition, we utilize the majority of the district's capacity. We build in capacity in both our revenues and expenditures, really driven by new accounting rules, where the district is required to recognize both our long-term leases and long-term subscriptions as revenues and expenditures. And that really has no impact to the initial fund balance at the initial initiations of the contracts, but it is driving why you're seeing revenues greater than our overall budgeted revenues. As we look at expenditures, our expenditures are relatively aligned with what our budgeted expenditures were. We were seeing overall staffing costs lower than our budget, and our materials and supplies and operating costs greater than our budget as a whole. And those driven staffing costs were lower really due to anticipated vacancies that were larger than what we put in our budgeted plan. In addition, our material supplies and operating costs were higher than our total expenditures, total budgeted, original adopted budget, driven by service contracts in our special education program. And as I mentioned, that the accounting rules related to long-term leases and subscriptions as a whole. I also want to highlight the difference between our restricted fund balance and our unassigned fund balance. Restricted fund balance really relates to things that we are required to, specific requirements around how we can spend them or committed for future years overall. For example, part of that restricted fund balance relates to prepaid expenditures that we paid in the 23-24 fiscal year, but that are going to be expenditures next year, or overall program resources that are required for one specific program. I'd like to highlight the food nutrition program. That's a pretty significant portion of that balance. We are required to utilize those revenues and those resources on that program in itself, and we cannot use that for other related basic ed costs as we go through the next fiscal year. As I mentioned, one of the reasons driving an increase in overall fund balance is revenues as a whole. Is enrollment as a whole. Enrollment drivers over 60% of our overall revenues. This picture depicts the 3 years of our annual average student enrollment. This differs from what you typically see as head count, where you'll see the total number of students counted in our October 1 head count. This is an average across all programs, and students on a monthly basis. What I'd like to highlight is that our annual average was above our budget of approximately 232 students, and we actually saw an increase to our annual average of about 15 students overall. We're seeing that drive in our annual average increase in some of our Open Doors program, as well as our Running Start program, and so we're seeing those students really utilize those programs and other options that are available to them. I also want to highlight the last columns on the right for the 3-year average. Really, it's the annual full average we're seeing that increase, and we'll continue probably to see that. We'll continue to see that in next fiscal year as well. As we look at revenue trends for the past 3 years on a monthly basis, I just want to highlight the changes from July projections was just a slight decline in total revenues, and that's really due to finalizing all of our grants and finalizing the final enrollment for our August revenue accruals, as well as you'll see a little bit higher revenues in August due to the finalization of the grants and all of the accounting rules related to the long-term leases and subscriptions, increasing and posting that information on that August month in itself. As we look at total preliminary expenditures for the 23-24 fiscal year, they are within board-approved authorizations. And they did decline slightly from July projections, primarily in those staffing costs overall. Again, I mentioned previously our material supplies and operating costs. Higher than budgeted, driven by our special education program and the new accounting rules related to our long-term lease and IT subscriptions, and that was offset by the overall lower staffing costs. You'll notice we're seeing a big jump in the August month and that 3-year monthly, the 3-year monthly trending line for our expenditures, and again, it's driven by the final accruals and final posting of all of the information we knew for the 23-24 fiscal year. So this represents the monthly trend of our fund balance as a total percentage of expenditures for the past 10 years. The blue triangle line is a percentage of our fund balance. The blue diamond line is a percentage of total fund balance. And then the triangle green line is our unassigned balance. And the yellow square line represents our minimum fund balance policy, total fund balance. And the line at the bottom with X's represents our unassigned portion. And you can see it fluctuates year over year as a whole. You notice in 2020, we had an influx of funding related to state legislative changes around fully funding basic ed, and we'll see it start decline year over year, decline in 2022 as we are losing, as one-time funding related to the pandemic is going away. We see that increase in 2024 for multiple reasons, part of that being reductions we made in the 22-23 fiscal year, along with our increased enrollment over the budget, as well as increased investment income, as well as an increase in our overall unassigned fund balance as a whole. As we move forward and look into the next fiscal year, we need to continue to manage, continued management of expenditures is necessary as we have as a state structural inequities in that state and local funding overall. And why I say that is that we are actually projecting, we did adopt a budget that has a lower, that has expenditures exceeding the revenue in that next fiscal year. And when you look at our preliminary fund balance of 10% ending this year, and you compare that to what that would be for the next fiscal year based on our total budget expenditures, it's 9.2%, because costs increase year over year. Meaning your fund balance is compressed as costs increase as we go in the next fiscal year. As a highlight, our overall fund balance was higher than the budgeted plan. Really, again, as I mentioned before, increased enrollment. We had increased funding related to MSOCs and classified staffing allocation, increased investment income, lower staffing cost, and then our increase in assigned fund balance specific to some of those program needs. Moving on to the 4 other comprehensive funds, I'll start with the district's capital projects fund. The Capital Project Fund supports major projects including one-to-one technology devices, device lifecycle management, other capital projects, including building, other capital facility projects, including building Clean Building Act upgrades and other building upgrades, roofing and flooring projects, portable moves, and other building projects, which do include support project planning for the new replacement of Jackson Elementary School. Like to highlight revenues were higher than the actual revenues were higher than the 23-24 budgeted plan, really driven by the increase in investment income as a whole. And then expenditures were lower than our budgeted plan for multiple different reasons. And it's really driven by timing and capacity building into the capital funds expenditures. For example, the district budgets purchases of property annually for elementary 19, and when that property becomes available, they need to have room or capacity to purchase that property in the year that it may become available as a whole. So it's that long-term planning piece. In addition, there are timing of projects of when they happen also vary year over year. Sometimes they are moved ahead of schedule and completed earlier and maybe at a lower cost, and some of those projects are also maybe moved to the next fiscal year due to timing of project needs overall as a whole. Ultimately, the fund balance plan will continue to support our outstanding projects and project plans as needs, as designed during the 2022 capital levy. Moving to the district's debt service fund. This fund supports the principal and interest payment for the district's outstanding bond debt. Currently, the district has approximately $71.4 million in outstanding bonds. And there are currently no voter-approved authorized bonds at this moment in time. Revenues and expenditures align with those principal payments as well as the levy authority that the district has overall, and fund balance will support, has sufficient to support future principal and interest payments. As bonds continue to be paid off, we do anticipate the debt service fund balance to decline going forward. The district's associated student body fund supports student activities, and this is a total fund balance for the middle school and high school ASBs. You see discrepancies, variances from the revenue and expenditures, primarily due to the fact that the students build these budgets to ensure that they have enough capacity to utilize all the resources or events that all of the activities and sports want to do throughout the year. And some of them happen and some of them don't. What we really want to focus on is, are they utilizing their resources and their fundraising dollars in the year that they're actually fundraising? And they were really close this year, within about $50,000 overall of their revenue and expenditures. And we continue to work with them to ensure that they're utilizing those funds in the year that the funds that they raise those dollars. Sometimes they may fundraise ahead of time also so that they can have some of those activities that may be bigger in nature over a longer window of time, and so that they can fundraise earlier and throughout the year. The district's transportation vehicle fund supports the purchase of school district buses and bus-related infrastructure. In the 23-24 fiscal year, no buses were purchased. However, we did order buses, and we do anticipate to be purchasing at least 2 in next fiscal year in the 24-25 fiscal year. The districts receive state revenue based on its aging of its own vehicles overall, and that'll vary based on the buses that we have year over year. The remaining funding for transportation is actually through our general fund as the district contracts out its busing services. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions or comments? Oh, seeing none? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And that moves us on to section 13.03, enrollment update as of October 1st, 2024. Mr. Fleckenstein.
Okay, I think I did that right. Well, good evening, President Mitchell, Board of Directors, Dr. Saltzman, and our student representatives. Tonight, I'd like to just give you an update on our student enrollment as of October 1st of this year. As you may already know, and for our public's knowledge, enrollment is a very important part to the functioning of a school district. Our student enrollment is key in our staffing and budgeting processes. Enrollment drives over 60% of our total general fund revenues, and that is directly related to staffing in each of our school buildings. It also plays another really important role in the facilities and planning department. With our enrollment and our student enrollment, it helps us to plan for our capital bond or levies, for which we would be asking our voters for funds, obviously, to construct or maintain more capacity within our schools to house an increase in enrollment. It also is what would drive the necessity for a boundary change. So if for some reason we have large enrollment increases in one portion of the district, and we're building new schools, more capacity to house them, of course, that may constitute having to adjust where students go to school as we fill up a brand new set of classrooms. Portable classrooms are also moved based on student enrollment, and that's a temporary solution to increases in student enrollment. It is, or has in the past been, a more financially feasible solution, but over time it's becoming more and more expensive for those portable classrooms. Enrollment also drives our property management and acquisition. So obviously, before we can build a school, we have to purchase land, and this helps us to know where those enrollment increases are happening and where we would need to seek out property for purchase. And then finally, the capital facilities plan itself, every 2 years, the board is presented with a capital facilities plan that identifies the needs of the district and our trends of increasing or decreasing enrollment. That, once approved, goes to Snohomish County, and then that is what determines, with their approval of the plan, the impact and mitigation fees that we have. Although those funds are very significant to the maintaining of our capital program to adjust for enrollment increases, and are critical to, in particular, and only used for increasing school capacity. And then finally, decisions about the program locations and school transfers are solely based on capacity. That is the first criteria for both. If we don't have the space to move a program to, well, then it limits our ability to create more and innovative instructional practices and opportunities for kids. In short, enrollment's important. And so with that, where did we end up on October 1st? For the Board of Directors, up on the screen, we have labeled projections as Kendrick. You may be familiar with this from the past. We consult with Educational Data Solutions, whose primary analyst is Dr. Les Kendrick. So we've abbreviated their work as our consultant onto this slide just as Kendrick. For the public, Kendrick ends up providing us low, median, high projections and has done so for quite some time in the school district. And when we look at our actual preliminary October 1 enrollment, we have 19,728 students. When we compare that to the OSPI provided projections that we receive each year, it was 291 students above that projection. The low Kendrick projection was 294. And then the median projection, for which we have typically, not every year, but typically base our enrollment projections for budgeting and staffing purposes, was 83 student difference. Going a little bit deeper with that same piece of information, but spread out between elementary, middle, and high school enrollments, you could see that first left column for October 1, 2023, the actual enrollment we had last year at each level. In the middle column are the October 1 medium range projection as provided by Kendrick, and you can see those totals there. And then next to that was the October 1, 2024 preliminary enrollment counts. So the difference we see at the elementary level from last year was we had an increase of 18 students from this time last year. We had 151 student increase in middle school at this time from last year. And high school, we see a reduction of 43. The total difference between last year to this year was 126 student increase. The difference between the medium range projection is 83 above. That's good news, because as Ms. Tress has just presented to you, that means our enrollment is higher than our budgeted projection, meaning more revenue is coming into the district than we anticipated, which puts us in a much more stable financial situation moving forward. When we look over time from 2016 to the present year, what you see on this slide is the accuracy of the one-year low-range projections versus the accuracy of the one-year medium-range projections over time. The yellow highlights are showing which of the projections in a given year were more accurate. It's an interesting trend. We can see that both prior to the pandemic and after the pandemic, the medium-range projection is more accurate. But during the pandemic, because of a multitude of factors, the lower end of enrollment projections was actually more accurate. It's nice to see that we continue kind of back on the trend we were talking about. It's nice from Mr. Kink describing that school feels like pre-pandemic again. And I think a lot of our data is starting to reflect that same trend. So our next steps. At this time, when we are just finalizing our October 1 enrollment, we actually have already submitted that to OSPI. From now until November 22nd, school districts are allowed to adjust that if needed, but it will be finalized near the end of November. And a recent email I saw today is that it was released to the public in December from OSPI, the official numbers. We will follow up with you in your March board meeting just to give you a full summary of the enrollment projections, but also looking ahead into our enrollment projections for next year. February to June, we go through our annual process of budgeting, which then drives our staffing, which then dictates where we're going to be moving some portables or where we're going to make other programmatic plans to accommodate the increase in enrollment that we're seeing. And then in September, as always, we adjust. And this year was a very successful year of adjustment when it came to staffing, especially with our teacher placements and not having to move them. So with that, I thank you for your time very much, and I'll take any questions.
Yeah, thank you so much. Are there any questions or comments? Oh, yeah, Dr. Atkins.
Yeah, I have a kind of a multi-part question. So for the public's knowledge, I'm asking about the impact of the Four Corners development on enrollment, if we've seen an impact on that beyond not just at View Ridge Elementary, but also if we're seeing an impact at any of our middle or high schools.
Yes, sorry, I had to go grab that. I left it over there. Our current numbers that we have as of October 1 for the Four Corners development, we have 83 total students who are coming from that development into Everett Public Schools. 40 are from attending View Ridge, 17 at Evergreen Middle School, 15 for Cascade High School, 11 are attending other Everett Public Schools elementary schools, and 2 are attending a high school other than Cascade in Everett Public Schools. So that's the total of 83 so far. My current information is that 3 buildings are being occupied. There's more to be released to fill.
Thank you. You did that.
Yes, thank you for that.
Any other questions or comments? No, thank you. It is sort of nice. I appreciate, Student Representative Kink saying it is coming back, because especially since, maybe it is better now. So that's really great. Thank you. And you don't have to go anywhere because section 14.0 is unfinished business and there is none for this meeting. That moves us on to section 15.0 new business, where you have a whole lot of policies for first reading, and I'll let you make each introduction and then we'll proceed through them. And students, this is going to be really boring.
Well, the good news is that policy is exciting. It is exciting to me. The other good news is most of them are deletions because we're consolidating. So I hope to go pretty quick tonight. Just to begin, Policy 1000, Legal Status and Operation Revisions, incorporate language from Policy 1100 and Policy 1110 to match WASDA's Model Policy 1000 and have been reviewed by legal counsel.
This is going to go fast. Any questions or discussion? Okay, and so by general consent, we will move that to second reading.
Next, we have, we propose deletion of Policy 1100, Organization, as this policy is no longer needed because the required information is now provided in revisions to Policy 1000.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll move that to second reading.
Next, we propose the deletion of policy 1110, number of members and terms of office, because this policy's required information is now provided in the revisions to policy 1000.
Any questions or discussion? We'll move that one to second reading.
Next, we have the proposed revisions to policy 1113, board member residency, now incorporates language from WASDA's model policy 1113 and has been combined and has been reviewed by the legal counsel prior to tonight's meeting.
Any questions or discussion? Okay, then by general consent, we'll move that one to second reading.
Next, we have policy 1115, board vacancies, revisions incorporate language from WASDA's model policy 1114. The revisions include changing the title from board vacancies to board member resignation and vacancy and have been reviewed by legal counsel.
Thank you so much. I think this did clarify some things, so any questions or comments? Okay, then by general consent, we'll move this one to second reading.
Next, we have policy 1120, board annual organization meeting. Revisions incorporate language from WASDA's model policy 1210. Language regarding the role of parliamentarian was discussed by the board of directors at their August board workshop and has now been removed. The revisions include changing the title from board annual organization meeting to board annual organizational meeting. These revisions have been reviewed by legal counsel.
Any questions or comments? Okay, then by general consent, we'll move that one to second reading.
Next, we propose the deletion of policy 1235 as the result of discussions by the board of directors at their August board workshop. The proposed deletion of policy 1235, parliamentarian, has been reviewed by legal counsel.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate that research was done that no other district in the area has this role, so it is okay that we do this. So by general consent, we'll move this to second reading.
Absolutely. Yep. Next, we have proposed revisions to policy 1620, board superintendent relationship, which incorporate language to match WASDA's model policy 1620, board superintendent relationship, and has been reviewed by legal counsel.
Thank you, and I think this cleaned up a lot of things. Any questions or comments? Okay, then by general consent, we will move this to second reading.
And finally, we propose the deletion of policy 1622, board staff communications, as the required information is now provided in revisions to policy 1620, which matches WASDA's model. The proposed deletion of policy 1622, board staff communications, has been reviewed by legal counsel.
Any questions or comments? Then by general consent, I will move that to second reading, and I will correct my previous statement. That was quite entertaining.
Thank you.
So now that moves us on to section 16.0 on upcoming agenda items. Dr. Saltzman, what is planned for our upcoming meetings?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Board of Directors, and the public this evening. At the October 29th special meeting, the board will participate in the Highly Capable Program Update Study Session. At our regular meeting on November 12th, 2024, the items are followed. Presentation of the colors by the National Junior ROTC. The annual achievement and school stakeholder data presentation, several policies for second reading, National Merit Scholar finalist recognition, Jackson High School accreditation recognition, core value champions will be for learning recognition, legislative priorities, college and the high school contract with Edmonds College, Limitless Learning Network monetary gift, the Highly Capable Program grant, Millennia Ministries sole source and contract, the Homeless Student Stability Education Program grant, Schools Out Washington gift and contract, the Perkins grant, and surplus office equipment. Thank you, Madam Chair and Board of Directors.
Thank you. That takes us to section 17.0, executive or closed session. There is none during this meeting. It moves us on to the last part, section 18.0, adjournment. This concludes October 22nd, 2024 regular meeting of the Everett Public Schools Board of Directors. The meeting is now adjourned.